Welcome to the Josh Huisman Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are here for episode 60 of the Josh Huisman Podcast. They said that I would never make it this far, man, and here I am. Now, I always say this, nobody ever said that, but it makes me feel better that I'm 60 episodes in, and I knew from the beginning that on episode 60, I wanted to have Adam Johnson of CarePortal, a ministry that is doing a lot of great work, and then he's also on staff at the Vine Church in Chapel Hill, Tennessee. We're going to talk about all this fun stuff, but let's just start off and say hello, Adam Johnson. Welcome to the program. How you doing?
Doing good, Josh. Thanks so much for inviting me out.
Yeah.
It's awesome to be here.
Do you get to go on a lot of podcasts and talk about this, or do we get to kind of be your introduction to...
First one.
Is it really?
Yeah, first podcast.
Oh, my good. Well, that's going to be fun, so we'll have a good time because... We've talked about some ministry things, but we're also going to talk about ice cream because ice cream is good. It's my go-to dessert. Is ice cream your go-to, or are you more of a cake and cupcakes kind of guy?
So it's probably not my go-to. I think something like a hot pie would be my go-to, but it's always a la mode, so you got to have the ice cream with
hot pie, though, like apple?
Yeah, like a hot apple pie or cherry, yeah.
It's good. I'm a coconut cream, banana cream guy. Cheesecake Factory has a coconut cream pie cheesecake, which is a combination of everything that can kill you within a year. So that's good. All right, let's talk about important things. I know you're like, I did not come on here to talk about dessert.
I'm a connoisseur.
Okay. Okay. All right, man. Well, hey, I'm excited to talk with you because our church has partnered with an organization called CarePortal and got introduced to you and through that organization. And we thought it would be great to have you come on here and let's talk about CarePortal, what it does. But we can also talk about ministry because you head up community outreach at your church down in Chapel Hill. Yeah. It seems like you really have a passion for this and helping people. So why don't we, before we get into the organizations that you serve, how did you as an individual get called into ministry of this nature of outreach and serving and helping people?
Yeah. Man, it's God writes a really cool story. So I was adopted out of the foster care system in Tennessee. So through Tennessee Department of Child Services, I got adopted into the family that I grew up in, and found that out when I was 12 years old. Started having emotions and feelings. You know, every teenage boy is going to start having emotions and feelings that he didn't have before. But now kind of add in that, hey, you're actually adopted and you have this whole other family and these kinds of things. So walked that out in my early life, came to know the Lord as an adult. So when I was 24, had an encounter with Jesus, and then a couple of years later, he laid it on my heart that I wanted to be active in that space somehow, and didn't really know how, didn't have a direction. But I was adamant about my wife and I will probably foster. We may adopt. I adopted my son, 14. And we've been walking that out together as a family and kind of navigating the great things that come from that, and the fact that I get to call him chosen and kind of point to Scripture and say we have the spirit of adoption, and you can kind of relate to that and you can see that in a different way because you actually have the physical adoption that's going on, and you can understand what that looks like for somebody who doesn't have an obligation to come in and love you, but to choose to partner with you and to love you and to pull you into their family, the same way that God does with all of us. And then also to go and be active with organizations. So there's been several organizations that my wife and I have volunteered with that directly impact the foster care system in the vulnerable child space. Then going to our church, so getting to go to the Vine, and they do a foster family Christmas once a year. So we began to get active in that before we were even members there. And then we started attending the church and moved to Chapel Hill just because we wanted to be close to that church family. Ended up on staff with them. And then not long after becoming the community outreach director, our church got introduced to CarePortal. And so CarePortal became a technology that we used as a church. And just through the relationships that we built with that technology platform, I was able to meet some of the guys that were trying to implement it in Tennessee, and eventually get to the point where I'm here now and I'm working for them.
So rewind back with me just a little bit. So the home you grew up in, was it a Christian home? Or because you said you came to know the Lord at 24 years old. So what did that look like for you?
So I think it would have, definitely if you'd asked my parents or even me, we would have said, yeah, we're a Christian household, but we didn't attend church. It wasn't a regular part of our weekly rhythm to go to church. We'd go every now and then, special occasions, Easter, Christmas, but we're in the Bible Belt. So going to church is just kind of something that you do if you can. And also grew up on a 93-acre cattle farm as an only child. So there was work to be done on the weekends. And that was kind of what my family prioritized was let's get our hard work done.
It is interesting when you say that growing up in the Bible Belt, because what I found that too is even if you don't go to a church, you at least have one in your head to say that you go to if someone were to ask.
Your membership is somewhere.
You have a membership somewhere that you have an answer for. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, absolutely.
So farmers, you said? Farming on the weekends?
So, I farmed, every day. My parents grew tobacco as a commercial crop, and we also did beef cattle. So they were selling to the big beef markets and the tobacco markets as well. So, and I'm the only child, and so I get saddled with a lot of the work that my dad was having us do out there on the farm. And he also worked a 40-hour-a-week job out in town where we lived. So,
So when you said you were around 24 years old, what was the spark? Like, what made the difference that made you give your life over completely and turn the page on that?
Yeah. So I had some really amazing people praying for me. And, it made me a believer in the power of prayer, my conversion story, because I had no reason to start chasing after Jesus. On paper, my life kind of looked perfect. I had the job I wanted, had the car I wanted, had the apartment, had the girl I wanted, had all this stuff kind of in order. But I was miserable inside, and I had this missing piece, and I didn't understand what that was. Had a really good friend who had gone into ministry a year prior, and we hadn't spoken for that whole year. But I was just at a point where I was feeling empty, kind of hitting my rock bottom, and I felt a tug at my heart, and I didn't really know what to do about it or what it was. I was searching for something, so called him just for some advice. He'd been a really good friend to me, and went down and visited him. It was the Sunday after Easter at their church. And I went down and visited him and had an encounter with Jesus, man, right there, and gave my life to him. And my sinner's prayer sounds different than probably the typical one that gets recited. But I was kind of telling the Lord, I was like, look, I don't even know what's broken in my life, and I don't really want my life anymore. So, this pastor's telling me that you want it. So if you can fix it, man, you can have it. So it sounds more like a AutoZone commercial than a sinner's prayer, but that's really what it was.
Okay. So, walk me through then, when did you know that working in ministry was something for you? Because you're saying was that God's answer to you? You say, hey, you can have my life, you could take it. And then God said, well, it's funny you should say that. I have some jobs for you, Adam.
Yeah, that's really what happened. I mean, from the time that I said yes to the Lord, I was pretty much working in ministry. My buddy was a youth pastor at the time, and I joined his youth ministry team and just started helping. I'd been teaching at a martial arts studio for a while, and had been working with young adults and teenagers. And so I was like, man, I could bring some stuff to the table and do some activities and things like that. So I became like the game guy for the youth group. And that's what I did. And 6 months later, he goes and becomes a church planter. So now he's a senior pastor of a church, and I took over his responsibilities as the youth pastor when he left. So 6 months into my walk with the Lord, I became a youth pastor.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've been in ministry roles ever since.
They don't normally put that in the recommendations.
Right? No, they do not, for good reason.
Who's this Adam guy? Were you when you were volunteering as the youth? Were you the weird adult helper? Sometimes youth ministries will have that strange character who is kind of helping out.
Yeah,
and you're like, I don't know, but
yeah, I was lucky enough to join a team. There were like 5 of us, so I wasn't just this guy that was showing up like, hey, I'm the youth pastor's friend. I like to hang out. So.
This is totally going off into left field with it, but I remember when I was in high school, we went to a winter retreat. I grew up in Chicago, and we'd always go up to Wisconsin or Michigan for winter retreats with youth groups when I was in youth group. And a church that I went to, one of my friends invited me to go with his church youth group. And so I didn't know any of their leaders or any of that stuff, but they took us and we went up there, right?
Yeah.
And so we're doing the winter retreat and we're having a good time. And the one leader who was assigned to like our 4 guys in our cabin or whatever was the strangest guy. He was funny but he would say the most random things that way. And I'm really pausing whether I should actually say on camera what he said to us. We were walking to one of the worship sessions at night, and he's like, "You guys don't know what it feels like to be punched in the face and have to retaliate in full anger.
Oh, man.
Like, it was one of these. So that's, I'm like, Adam, tell me you weren't that guy.
I wasn't that guy.
Okay.
No.
All right. We'll get off that one. So, but when I did youth ministry years later, because I was a youth pastor for over 10 years.
Wow.
And when I was doing that, I was always telling myself, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Don't say the weird, crazy things and all that. Okay. So you're pulled into youth ministry. You're thrown into the fire. You got things going on. How long did you do that before it really started to transition into outreach and other things?
Yeah, so I did youth ministry for about 5 years, and I feel like we probably did everything wrong in youth ministry, but our youth group grew, and primarily the kids that were coming were unchurched kids. You know, their parents weren't coming to our church, but they were coming on Wednesday nights, and then that transitioned into them coming on Sunday mornings. And so I started kind of seeing that as a trend, like these people aren't really, you know, they didn't come up in church, and they kind of have a similar story to me where it's like they grew up around church, they can speak Christianese, but we didn't really attend church a lot, and now these kids are coming and they're hungry for it. And we weren't the game youth group, we weren't the snacks youth group, we didn't do pizzas every night and have like a big draw. Worship was me on an acoustic guitar and just trying to muscle my way through songs I didn't know, and that was how we did youth ministry for about 4 years. Did you already know
how to play acoustic guitar before you came?
I did.
Okay, I was going to say, because it is a requirement. You have to.
Yep. Especially in the Nashville area, you have to know how to play acoustic guitar and you know, at least in youth ministry, know a couple of basic worship songs.
Exactly.
So I was involved with music before I became a believer, and so when I became a believer, I was like, I need to lay this down. I've made myself an idol. And then our worship leader kind of bails on us, and I was like, well, I guess I've got to pick it back up. And you know, the Lord turned it for good. So we were doing that, my wife and I, for about 4 years. We got married in the time where I was a youth pastor. We were dating, got engaged, and got married all in the first year of my youth ministry experience. And then we did that for about 4 years together. And that's when I transitioned into more of an outreach role, where I told my pastor, I was like, I feel a call to evangelism, to really get out, find these people who are hurting and who may not even know that there are people in their community that want to love on them. They want to help them. And we want to become like a safety net for them, bring them into our family and help hold their arms up when they can't do it themselves.
Yeah. I have a buddy who has a saying. He says it quite often on his podcast. He said, you are best equipped to help the person that you were before. And when I was looking at CarePortal and what that ministry does, and now just hearing a little bit of your story, and being brought into a home, being raised, being taken care of, things going good, but now you find yourself in a place going, I want to give back, and I want to help people. I want to reach people, share the message of Christ, but also meet the needs of people to become the hands and feet of Christ. And so, as you're the community outreach director of the Vine Church, did that come first and then CarePortal?
Yeah, it did. So I became the community outreach director there. I'd gone down there initially just to attend and to help out with worship and media if they needed help. And you know, as I grew in my relationship with the church family there and kind of, you know, started to see where their giftings were and where my giftings were and where I could really felt like I could be beneficial. I had a conversation with the pastor and told him, man, I've got this heart for evangelism. I want to do this. And he said, I think we got a space for that. So we started walking it out, and then he officially set me in about 3 months after we had that conversation as the outreach director. And so my wife and I take a trip to Kansas City, and we go to the Send, and that's where we were made aware of CarePortal. And it was right around the same time that I had been set into that role. So this was maybe a month after I was set into the official position of community outreach director. And then I hear about this technology platform that really equips churches to, you know, evangelize to their local community, to the people that they may not even be aware of, the people that aren't walking in the doors on a Sunday.
Yeah. So why don't we go there? Because a lot of people who are hearing this word CarePortal that I've said now several times have absolutely no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of churches who have no idea what CarePortal is and what you guys do. And so if you could rewind back to that time when you were at the Send event that you went to, what about CarePortal specifically attracted you, and what is the thing that you tell people about it? What is CarePortal? What do you guys do?
Yeah. So officially, CarePortal is a care-sharing technology platform that connects churches to families and children specifically in their communities that are vulnerable and experiencing need or crisis. So when I was at the Send, the president of CarePortal, Adrian Lewis, comes up on stage and he shares what CarePortal is and what it's done for the community there in Kansas City specifically, but also nationally. And we come to find out, we're seeing CarePortal in 30 states at that time across the nation. And recently they'd launched in Tennessee. So it wasn't even a year old in Tennessee when I first heard about it. And when my church signed up, immediately when my wife and I heard, we were like, we've got to get this platform. We need to start meeting the needs of vulnerable kids in our community. We've already got a heart for this as a church. And so we started walking through that together and learning the technology platform. And through a relationship with the area director here in Tennessee for CarePortal, I started working for him. Mm-hmm. But the functionality of it is really what drew me to it. And what happens is there will be someone who already works in the child welfare space. So whether it's a caseworker for the Department of Child Services or an independent agency or even a school or the police departments in local communities, they can log needs that they've investigated for these families on CarePortal. So let's say there's a family that is experiencing lack in an area where maybe DCS has to step in and remove a child from the home. And maybe it's just poverty that manifests itself to look like neglect. But either way, the child has to be removed from the home if this need doesn't get met. So the social worker would say, this family needs a twin-size bed and maybe $150 for groceries for this month. Well, the church can see that when they log it on the CarePortal platform, and the church can say, hey, we'll provide a bed, we'll provide the groceries. And then the church actually gets to make a connection physically with the family. They get to go and meet them, to either bring them the groceries in the bed or meet them at the store and shop with them or whatever that looks like. And everything gets connected through local churches. It doesn't have to go the roundabout way. It doesn't have to go back to the State Department, but it gives the families people in their community who want to wrap around them and support them. And that's really what turned me on to CarePortal. Was just, man, if we can meet these people who aren't banging down the doors of the church, who aren't walking in on a Sunday, who maybe even feel like they can't come to church, then we're gonna be introduced to a whole new side of our community and show people like this is who we are, this is who Jesus is, and this is what he wants to do for you. Mm-hmm.
And so, is it primarily based to children and families, or is it needs across the board? So we're not specifically talking about the homeless population or needs, or are we? I mean, is this really any need can be posted on the website or the CarePortal app? How does that work?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So specifically, CarePortal is the care sharing technology that connects churches to local children and their families. So it is child-based. Every need that comes through the CarePortal platform from an agency is a child-centered need, but it impacts the whole family. So we had, a mom with car trouble. Well, if mom's got car trouble and can't get kids to and from school safely, or to doctor's appointments, things like that, then that's a CarePortal need. That's appropriate to put on the platform. But it does impact. It impacts all of those different, environments and those different levels, because 50% of the people in the homeless population, and this is a national statistic, so I'm not sure what it boils down to for Tennessee, but it's about 50% of the homeless population spent time in the foster care system. And so we've identified that as an area of critical need. So if we can have an impact on the foster care system as the church, the capital C global church, then we're impacting the homeless population. If we do that, then we can impact the 70% of the prison inmates who spent time in foster care nationally. Mm-hmm. We can, impact the 60% of children and young women rescued from sex trafficking raids who were at one time or another in foster care. So it does bleed over into all of those different arenas at its healthiest and when it's firing on all cylinders. But what we're trying to identify first is going upstream, helping these children when they're experiencing vulnerability to ultimately try and keep them from re-entering the system or entering in the first place at all, keep biological families together. Mm-hmm.
CarePortal is a new mission at New Hope that we have taken on as far as offering financial support and being involved and going on the website. We've also become, or are in the process of becoming, a connecting church.
Yeah.
And for any church leaders who might be listening or whatever, could you explain a little bit about what that is? What's the difference between maybe just someone who meets needs and then a connecting church?
Yeah, absolutely. So what CarePortal is it's a platform that creates a care sharing opportunity. And when we say care sharing, we're talking like, ride sharing, you kind of think of Uber or Lyft, and space sharing, you're thinking of like Airbnb or Vrbo. We're asking these child serving professionals to invite churches into this space to care for these kids. And so a church that signs up for CarePortal and wants to be a church can see needs and can meet needs. So they could say, hey, we have a bed that we would like to give to this need. Or, hey, one of our church members has $75 that they want to just put into the CarePortal platform to help meet this need. A connecting church is going to be the church in the community that kind of takes a step forward and says, you know what, we're going to raise our hand. We're going to say we want to be the church to pick up the resources that are being offered. We want to go and collect the physical items and also steward those funds that are given through the CarePortal platform and get them to the family, go and make that physical connection with the family. So that would be the biggest difference. If you're a church on the platform, you can still meet needs. You just won't go through that extra step of training where you're going to now steward resources that come in through the CarePortal platform. A connecting church is committing to stewarding funds that come through the CarePortal platform and collecting any items that champions or churches might give toward the family and their need.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when you went to this, was the Send, was that just a conference you went to and then you heard about this CarePortal presentation?
Yeah.
Did you come back to your church and say, hey guys, we got to do this?
So
what was that process? What did that look like when you presented it to them?
So first off, my wife and I really have a heart for children. She's the children's ministry director at our church. And she and I decided we wanted to go on a trip for our 5-year wedding anniversary. And so we found the Send in Kansas City, and we said, this looks awesome. It's just a day of worship, a day of ministry. We'll get fed. We'll also get to go to Kansas City, have some great KC barbecue. This is going to be great. So we rented an Airbnb and went out there and spent a week in Kansas City. And when we went to the Send and saw CarePortal, we were talking, we were like, yeah, we should really go look into that. Well, I had gone to get food. I'd gone to get us something to eat for lunch. And when I come back, my wife's not in our seats. And so I go on this, kind of hunt for her, call her, find where she's at, and go over to where she is. She had just finished registering our church for CarePortal. So she was kind of, it's better to ask forgiveness than permission in that
that's
one.
That's not fair, because if you had done that,
right.
I know if I did that, my wife would be like, don't ever do that again.
Right.
But they got to do it.
Yeah, but she kind of ready, fire, aimed on that one.
Yeah.
So, but no, it worked out great. She was like, this is a no-brainer, and I think the biggest thing is it's no cost for churches to join the platform. And so she was like, I'm not asking to spend any money here. We're not signing up for some kind of monthly subscription that we're going to be billed for. We're just saying, hey, we want to be made aware of vulnerable children and families in our zip code. And it was a no-brainer for her. And so what we do with that information now is up to us, because there's no obligation on the churches that sign up either. It's not like now that you're signed up, we expect you to meet X amount of requests per month. It's very much look for the requests that tug at your heartstrings that you want to get involved in, and invite your church community in with you. So the individuals can respond. It doesn't just have to come from the church leadership. The church leadership can see a need and then release it to their congregation, or they can just let them have access to all the needs coming in, and then they'll get emails themselves. So it really is, based on how the church wants to do it, very customizable, and it's just a tool we want to offer to churches, and not have high expectation on things in return. It's just opportunity for them to do the work they're already doing and to scale it.
Yeah. So how much work do you do, like in your normal week? How much time do you spend on CarePortal, and how much time are you spending with your church thing? It would seem like you'd have to balance that pretty good, right?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have a pastor who kind of looks at what I do for CarePortal as community outreach in our area, because I am the primary point person for our church on CarePortal. But really in the area we're in, we haven't seen a high volume of requests coming in. And anything that I'm doing that's CarePortal related is reaching out to the community. And I'm making introductions to churches and talking with other believers, as well as other families who are experiencing crisis in other communities, and trying to get them connected. So my pastor really sees it as kingdom work. And CarePortal right now is my primary job, my primary focus. So I'm probably about 40 hours a week on CarePortal. And then the church side of things really just kind of lines up with what we're doing already.
Well, if you're saying nice things about your pastor, let's go ahead and give him a name. Stephen Bond, the pastor of the Vine Church down in Chapel Hill, right?
That's
I
the
see
one.
Stephen and Lauren Bond down there, and we need to maybe you need to introduce me to them. And
Oh, yeah.
and we talk. I love meeting pastors, love having them on this podcast, and just
Awesome.
giving them an opportunity to share what God's doing in their life and in the church and everything. So
Yeah, that'd be
you
great.
need to make that connection happen.
I'll make it happen for sure.
And let's go. Let me just read this because I'm going on CarePortal's website, which is CarePortal, CarePortal.org. And here's the vision of CarePortal. We believe that children belong in the care of healthy, loving families, and that families should be supported by their local church and caring members of their community. This philosophy, established by our parent organization, the Global Orphan Project, as Circles of Care, puts the child at the center of everything we do and fundamentally guides our work to ensure a healthier, family-style model of care for every child we serve.
Yeah.
That is the vision of CarePortal. And so, again, you can go to careportal.org and learn more about everything that is going on there and how you can get involved. I have pastor friends who listen to this podcast. And when you go into new churches and tell them about CarePortal, because I imagine you're wanting to increase the amount of churches involved, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what is your what's your elevator speech that you go in there and say to these pastors?
My biggest thing is I try to identify the me at those churches, so the person who's doing the work in the community that I was doing at our church and still am, but that person who may not be aware that there's a tool that can help point you in the direction of the families that you should be targeting to reach out to. And not targeting in a bad way, but targeting as in these families need to know the love of Jesus. They need to see Jesus' people in action, and it gives you a real-time opportunity to be the hands and feet. And it also invites your congregation to come and do those things with you. So it's activated people in our congregation who aren't on leadership, at the church, who aren't part of the staff, but people who are like, I have time or I have resources and I'm able to give of these things. And it now, it kind of becomes this thing where they feel, hey, I have a purpose and I can drive this and become a member of this team. So on CarePortal, they're called response teams, but when we invite people to do this work with us, they begin to do ministry in a way that, maybe as a pastor, you don't have capacity to do, but they have different resources, different times, different talents that they can look at a request and say, man, I could do that, and it gives them the opportunity to say, yes, I can help and I can respond to this request.
That's great. Well, I just want to tell my buddies, anyone listening right now, and if your church is looking for opportunities and ways that you could meet needs in the community, I know we want to, right? And one of the problems that we have as a church is being able to be aware of the needs in the community. And when I'm talking about the needs, the real needs that have been vetted, it's not someone trying to take advantage of a system or take advantage of something or whatever it may be. I've worked in full-time ministry for over 20 years, and this is a sad thing, but it's true. Sometimes you will have the people who just make the rounds. Right. And who will come and knock on the door almost at the same time of year or the same time of month and asking for something. It's almost making a living off of asking for things, and those needs aren't really needs. It's someone who's found a loophole in a system. And so, but what CarePortal is it's not that. It's a vetted process. It's something that these are real needs, and churches, and we're called to meet the needs of the orphans and the widows and children and those who have needs. And so we want those resources to go to those who are, it's not taking advantage, but it's really, they're those who we're called to serve.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And so CarePortal is an organization that does a worthy work in making sure that those who have real need are receiving and having those needs met.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Yeah, well, and that's what Jesus said too, right? He said, what you do for the least of these, you're doing for me. And so I fully, wholeheart's believe that. There's a story that came out of this community, the lower middle Tennessee area, where there's a care house in Bedford County where a lot of times teenagers will go and spend time. And so these 4 boys were in the care house, and the need came up that these boys just needed haircuts. They were getting shaggy. They wanted haircuts, but they can't leave the care house. They can't go to a barber. They don't have the money to go to a barber. The caseworker can't, legally take them in their car to go to a barber and get their hair cut and bring them back. So the need goes into CarePortal that they want hair cutting supplies for the care house. And then a DCS volunteer for the care house was going to come and cut their hair. And it was actually New Hope. It was your congregation met this need and actually facilitated the delivery of these hair care supplies to this home. And one of the ladies from Connect South Central, Rebecca Van Woudenberg, she went in there and volunteered her time and cut the hair for these young gentlemen. Mm-hmm. And while she was cutting the hair, she was just spending time in relationship with them. And all 4 of them accepted Jesus into their hearts by the end of that day.
Wow.
2 of them were baptized last Sunday, and I think it's 2 either this coming Sunday or the following are going to be baptized. So, and it's just connection. Connection changes everything. It wasn't the hair care supplies that saved their souls. It was relationship that got cultivated by a physical need being met initially.
Oh man, the scripture that comes to mind is, some plant the seeds, some water the seeds, some, everyone plays a different role in the process of serving.
Yep.
And one of the things that I preached about yesterday, because as we're recording this podcast a few days before the worship service this coming weekend, this podcast actually comes out the day after.
Oh, cool.
So it'll be on Monday, August 5th.
Good timing.
But so yesterday was great, man. You did a great job. But one of the things I preached about yesterday, it's already all set, was really talking about in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 10, when Moses is giving kind of a refresher on the law. He's talking about what it looks like to fear the Lord. And he's saying, so to fear the Lord, which basically means to take seriously the things of God. And so if God passes something on to you, take it seriously because God exists, he's real, and he passes on this law to you. And Moses says the way to do that is to walk in the ways of the Lord by loving him and serving. And then you fast forward a few verses later, and it says, when you serve and you care for others, what happens is they see your service done because you love God and you serve God.
Right.
And that gives glory to God, and therefore it ministers to them, right? That's why when you hear someone say in the church world, I just want to minister to you, and it kind of sounds churchy and whatever, and I totally get it, but that's where that comes from, the ministering by serving and caring for someone. I don't need anything back. I don't want anything back. I'm doing this because Christ did this for me.
Yeah,
he loved me. He served for me and sacrificed for me, and I want to do this in return. And so I think that's as close as we can get to Christ is when we are doing the things that Christ has done for us.
Right.
Serving others,
Yeah.
And so I love that story. That's the first time I've heard that about the hair.
Oh, really?
Kids getting saved. And
it was a couple folks from here that provided the funds to buy those things, and then facilitated collecting the items that were purchased and bringing it to the care house. So really awesome. Some folks from your response team. Man,
that's really cool to hear. And so, are you guys having pretty good luck with CarePortal with getting churches involved? I know you can tell me. I know sometimes it can be tough. There are so many missions and ministries in the Nashville area, and I could say multiple times a week I'm getting emails as a pastor.
Sure.
Emails, requests, and whatever. Are you guys getting much traction working with churches?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of churches join the network, and I think what helps is we're not a ministry, so we're not coming in and asking churches to start a ministry program at their church. We're coming in and saying, hey, if you're already doing community outreach, if you're already getting involved in this space, we want to help you scale it. We want to give you a tool that's no cost to you, that can help you scale what you're doing and also make you aware of more vulnerable families in your community that you could positively impact. So it's really not pitched as a ministry growing tool. My church, we've helped people that have never set foot in our building, and that's totally fine. We've walked with a family. It was a single mom of 7 kids, and we were walking with her because her kids were going to be displaced because she had a washing machine that broke. And so the school that reported on that said, the kids are coming to school in the same clothes every day. and we were able to make a connection with that mom, and still every now and again we'll resurface, have some more conversations with her. But she knows that there's people in the community now that love her and want to dote on her. My wife and I actually went on that connection, so I was able to hook up the washing machine while my wife was hanging out with the kids. So it was an amazing time of just ministering through that. We found out the oldest was going to graduate high school, so we got with our church and said, hey, let's put him a party together, a graduation party. We put a whole bunch of supplies in a box and just dropped it off with the mom and said, hey, throw him a party. Don't tell him, that anybody was involved. Just let him have a party. You throw it for him at your house, decorate your house with this stuff that we've got, and give him a cake and stuff. And so it was, it's things like that. It's the open-handed nature of the platform that drew me to it, and I think that draw other churches, because when churches really will listen, they'll take the time to see what it's about. They'll usually sign up and join the network, because it's a no-brainer. It's just giving churches greater access to their community.
Yeah, well, it is great, and I do want to encourage people to get involved with this CarePortal.org and learn more about the organization and what's going on. So they're listening to this. You can go back and watch New Hope service.
Yeah.
That was on August 4th, and you had a 10-minute presentation that you did about CarePortal, and then, of course, I did a message on serving.
Yeah, and it was great.
It was just fantastic.
I got born again.
There you go. That's good. Tell your church.
Yeah.
No, so anyway, I just want you guys to check that out. So let's have a little fun, since you mentioned that you did youth ministry before and you played acoustic guitar and all that. Okay, go back into your youth ministry past. What was your favorite worship song to lead, and what was your least favorite?
Oh man, that's great.
And I'll answer too, but you go first.
Yeah.
Why don't we do your favorite first, and then I'll do my favorite, then you do your least favorite, and I'll do mine.
I gotcha. That's good. My favorite was probably "Oh Come to the Altar," because I feel like the key was great. It's not a complicated strumming pattern or chord progression. It was super easy to get, and my vocals, I felt like, were really good for that key. One that kept getting requested that I absolutely hated doing. I love the song, but I just cannot sing it for anything, was "Oceans." And
Okay.
man, I just can't get
Why
there.
is it when you started saying that, I was like, he's going to say Oceans. I knew. Okay.
You already knew. Yeah. So that was the one for sure.
But you didn't have a girl who could lead that?
I was trying to get some of our youth ladies involved, and all of them just really stage fright, ridden with this anxiety about getting in front of people. I was like, look, it's nothing. Eventually, later on, we were able to get some ladies up there, but man, initially it was just me and the guitar. So.
What was the bridge in that? The chorus, not the bridge. All right, I'm confused now. Spirit, lead me where my
Trust is without borders. Yeah.
Okay. I was at an event one time where the worship leader repeated that maybe 150 times.
Wow.
It might not have been 150, maybe 140. But the Spirit was leading without borders, because there were no borders on the amount of times we were repeating,
My goodness.
repeating that. So it's funny you say that. But anyway.
That's so funny.
All right. So what do I got? This is going to show our age difference right here of when I was doing youth ministry and when you were.
Yeah.
Because you just said too that, not recent, but they're not too far off.
Right.
Okay. So for me, I was doing youth ministry. My favorite was like right at the almost beginnings of Hillsong United, and they had a song called "Take It All."
Yeah.
And that was my go-to. Like if I needed an upbeat praise song to get everyone in the room singing and whatever. I even had like the hand motions that I would teach to new groups to go along with it.
Oh, that's
I would
awesome.
go lead mission trips in other countries, and even kids who didn't speak English, I could get them full on singing that song.
That's great.
Having a great time. Another funny story, I had one leader of another country pull me aside afterward and told me I was leading devil music because the rhythm I was using on the guitar on Take It All was demonic.
Oh gosh, I didn't realize that Kingdom of Hell had copyright on
drum
patterns.
On drum patterns and rhythm patterns. And anyway, so I had some experiences back in the day. But so Take It All was my favorite. Take it all. All right, least favorite. Now this even goes back before my youth ministry time, but it was a song that was still hanging around. Okay, Trading My Sorrows.
Oh yeah.
My goodness. Dun 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 dun. 4 chords.
Yep.
Repeated for As long as you want it to go?
Oh, yeah.
Or as short as you want.
That's one you can go back into over and over again, man.
Oppressed but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned.
Yes,
right.
Lord. Yes, Lord.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. The chorus is yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, yes, Lord.
Yes. Amen.
Yes. Yeah. Have you ever written songs?
I have.
Okay. As a song, I write too. As a songwriter.
Yeah.
Do you know who wrote Trading My Sorrows? I don't.
I don't either.
You're lazy. You're lazy. On those lyrics, you got lazy. But who am I to say? That song is more known than anything I'll ever write in my lifetime, right?
Gosh, that one, global song.
Global.
They're doing that one on missions trips in other countries, I'm sure. Yeah.
Do you think they said, should we have one more line of yes, Lord? Yes, yes, Lord. Amen.
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 How are we going to finish it?
Amen.
There you go.
It's all good right there. All right. So any final thoughts? Any things that you want to share that maybe we haven't touched on with CarePortal, or some notes or something here that you would want people to know before we sign off?
Yeah, I think the stories are the most important thing. So if you are on the fence about joining the network or looking into it, you don't even have to be a church to sign up. If you're just an individual who likes to support these causes and give, you can go on and give. Businesses can sign up. They can become what's called a champion on the platform, and they can give monetarily or items. Some notable champions in the area. We've got Ashley Furniture Home Stores that has given us a ton of beds.
Oh, cool.
To help meet needs. So anybody can be on the network. There's really no limitations to who can get on and serve, and it's no cost to anyone on the responder side. But we are working with the governor's office of faith-based initiatives, and we are launching with them, in partnership with them, we're launching Every Child Tennessee at the end of August. So August 26th, we're going live with Every Child Tennessee. And this is really just an initiative for the church to step into this vulnerable space, the child welfare space, the space where kids are being neglected or experiencing poverty or anything in between, and where the church can really step in and make a difference. And so there are a bunch of organizations that are partnering together to make this happen, and CarePortal is getting on board with that. So if you hear anything about Every Child TN, that's a big push that we're making, and we're actually partnering with the Department of Children's Services so that these requests will be coming directly from a true vetting source. Any requests on CarePortal, individuals can't put the requests in themselves, and I think you mentioned that. These are vetted requests, but we're now even getting into the hands of government officials who are saying, we're going to put needs in that are at this critical level where maybe children are being removed from their homes, or we want to make successful placements in the foster care, kinship, or adoption space. So just something to be looking out for. We are going to see an uptick probably in requests coming in. So it is something, where everybody's going to have an opportunity to serve in this space. And it's, the work is so great. It's going to take all of us.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Adam. I really appreciate you coming on here, talking about it. I'm glad that we're working with CarePortal and with you in the mission stuff that we're doing as a church. I want to encourage other churches as well, pastors, to get involved in what's going on here and ways that we can meet the needs of children and families and partner with a great organization. So careportal.org is the place to go. And then also, man, wish you the best in ministry, what you're doing at the church with the Vine. And I'm looking forward to meeting your pastor, Stephen Bond, and good things ahead, right?
Oh, nothing but good things.
Nothing.
Ahead.
I think we should take this full circle and sign off with this. We were talking about ice cream before we started on this thing. Okay. All right. And I was just saying, Andy's Ice Cream is not a sponsor of this, but I had to stop there earlier today and got a Nutty Waffle Crunch mixer. What's your go-to?
Man, the go-to for me is the butter pecan at Andy's.
Okay,
yep.
Butter pecan. I think Austin off camera said that he was like was it creamsicle or something like that? Or
cream soda.
The cream soda?
The frozen cream soda,
Oh, my goodness. Okay. My boys like the triple chocolate crunch. All right, so anyway... We're going to head there for round 2.
Let's do it.
For today. So, I'm just kidding around. Another plug we got the guy Brewster's Ice Cream here in town.
Yeah.
John Leeser is the owner of that. And he's a great guy. They're awesome ice cream.
Man,
too.
I love Brewster's.
Brewster's is
fantastic.
Good stuff. So you need to go there. John's the man. So, all right, man. Adam, thank you so much.
Appreciate
you. And we'll be back next week with another episode.